Grace to you and peace from God our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. If Jesus was still around, physically and visibly in this world, would it be nice if he preached at your wedding? I would certainly ask him. Wouldn't it be nice to at least invite Jesus to your wedding? To have him there, the crowd? Maybe in the wedding party? At least doing something official. Jesus was invited to the wedding in Cana at Galilee, but he wasn't doing anything official. He wasn't preaching for the wedding. He wasn't one of the groomsmen. He wasn't there in any official capacity at all. He was just one of the nameless faces among the crowds that day, just like everyone else. It was really the last time he was going to be able to go anywhere incognito because no one really knew who he was yet. 3 days before he had been baptized by John the Baptist on the Jordan River. And so he hadn't preached a sermon yet. And he hadn't taught the crowds yet. And he hadn't even performed a miracle yet by the time he showed up to that wedding reception that day. His mother Mary knew who he was, of course. And a few of his first disciples that he had gathered around him realized that he was no ordinary man. But everyone else, not just at the wedding, and not just in Israel, but around the world, had no idea that Jesus really was the Son of God. There were a few people at the wedding that day, however, that were about to find out. Here's that story again from John chapter 2. On the third day, and that's probably the third day after Jesus was baptized or after he had chose some of his disciples, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so. The master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." This, the first of his miraculous signs, Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. I did some of the math for those numbers this past week, and that's a little bit scary because the last real math class I had was when I was 16 years old in a sophomore in high school. But I think I ran the numbers right. And if I did, that means the amount of water that Jesus turned into wine is pretty incredible. The Bible says that there were 6 big stone jars sitting there, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. We just split the difference and say that on average they held 25 gallons apiece. That would mean Jesus turned 150 gallons of water into wine. To put that in a little bit different perspective, a gallon can fill 5 normal wine bottles. And so Jesus turned 750 wine bottles of water into wine, the finest wine that has ever been crafted. They say that you normally can get 5 regular pours of wine out of wine bottles, so 5 glasses. 3,750 glasses of wine that the Lord prepared for the people that day in the blink of an eye. No matter how you run the numbers, That's a lot of wine. Oddly enough, Jesus allows hardly anyone to see how it was done. His mother, a few of his disciples, and a handful of servants. Now, I would have thought that for Jesus' very first miracle on the face of this earth, that it would have been a little more public and a little more impressive. He would certainly go on to heal people of life-threatening illnesses in front of crowds. He would go on to cast out demons in full view of an entire town. He would go on to raise people from the dead without trying to hide it at all. But here, for his very first act of supernatural power, he discreetly turns water into wine without even letting the groom or his bride or the master of the banquet know what he was up to. Doesn't that seem to be an anticlimactic way to burst onto the scene? But of course, Jesus wasn't trying to burst onto the scene. He purposely did something behind the scenes so that the majority of people there that day probably never knew where this wine had come from in the first place, because Jesus wasn't trying to make a spectacle of himself. Jesus didn't just want to wow the crowds with his cool magic trick. Jesus wanted to display his glory to those who he decided needed to see. His mother, a few of his disciples, and a handful of servants. But what is even more odd about this first miracle of our Savior isn't just how he went about doing it, it's when. The timing of Jesus' miracle shouldn't be overlooked, because he shows up to the wedding reception and he sees that the wine is running low, but he doesn't do anything about it. He waits. And then when the wine is completely gone, he still doesn't do anything about it. He waits. Even when his own mother comes up to him and gives him an opportunity to help, he still doesn't do anything about it. He waits. He waits and he waits and he waits even more, even though he could have jumped in right away and solved the problem before it ever became an issue. He didn't do it. He waits. Why? The bride and the groom must have been panicking. The master of the banquet was probably running around trying to figure out what to do about it. The guests themselves were probably starting to weigh their options about where to go next, because if there's no wine, there's nothing to drink. Back then, you don't have running water or any clean water to drink. Wine was the drink of choice for everyone. So why did Jesus wait? If he could do something about it, and he was going to do something about it, what was he waiting for? Think about that as we look at the words and the actions of Mary for a second. Because Mary comes off as a very commendable person in this entire episode. Notice that she doesn't even ask Jesus to do anything. She just makes the statement, presents the problem to Jesus, and allows him to deal with it in his own time and in his own way. They have no more wine. That's it. That's all she says. No suggestions about what he should do. No thoughts about how he should do it. No motherly intuition in a passive-aggressive way about when he should do it. Just a statement. They have no more wine. And when Jesus comes back to her and says, "Dear woman, why do you involve me? My time has not yet come," she doesn't argue with him. She doesn't complain about it. She doesn't try to take things into her own hands and get the job done herself. She simply goes to the servants and says, "If he tells you to do anything, you better do it." Mary didn't know exactly what Jesus had in mind, but she assumed that he had to do something. Mary's attitude is very admirable in this story, something that we should probably replicate every time we go to our Lord in prayer. No advice, no suggestions, no demands. Simply throw your problems and your worries and your issues and your difficulties at the feet of your Savior and let Him deal with it at His own time and in His own way. But the question still remains. What was He waiting for? Jesus was waiting because He did not come down into this world so that His children could be shielded from every single problem. Jesus did not enter this life so that those who believed in Him could avoid all difficulties from here on out. Jesus did not have any interest in then, and He does not have any interest in now, to put His Christians in this bubble so that we never have to experience pain. And we never have to deal with any unpleasant issues. And we never have to go through any kind of loss ever again. Jesus does not promise that. Jesus does not want that. What Jesus does want is to be the one who soothes you when you are in pain. He wants to be the one who fills the void when you are reeling from a loss. He wants to be your solution when you do have major issues. He wants to be the one you go to, the one you lean on, the one you trust in. And in order to do that, sometimes He has to wait. Sometimes He waits until things get really bad. Sometimes He waits until things get even worse. Sometimes He waits until you are in a situation where there seems to be no way out. And then He waits some more. And He waits because He loves you, not because He doesn't. He waits because He cares for you, not because He doesn't. He waits so that He can jump in at the exact right time. For exactly the right reason. At exactly the right place. For exactly the right person. We may not understand what He is doing at the moment. We may not realize what He is waiting for when we are in the thick of it. But Jesus does. He knows. And He realizes that sometimes we have to go through the worst to truly appreciate Him at His best. This story about the wedding in Cana in the region of Galilee gives us just a little bit of taste of how that happened. He waited. He waited. And He waited longer than what seemed reasonable before He stepped in. And He did what needed to be done in a way that no one expected. Jesus waits. And so sometimes we have to wait for Him. That's hard, isn't it? It's hard to wait for Jesus when we don't know what He is waiting for. You've experienced that in your life quite a bit. That physical pain that never seems to go away. Those financial struggles that seem to come surging back at all the wrong times. The daily drama of dealing with the people in your life all the time. The inner psychological, mental, emotional, and spiritual fight that you have with yourself because of that sin that festers inside. And you pray about those things, and they don't seem to get any better. And so you pray more about those things, and they seem to get worse. And you pray more about those things, and you start to wonder, what is Jesus waiting for? Is He even paying attention at all? He's paying attention. He's always paying attention. He's waiting, but He knows exactly what is going on. Sometimes Jesus waits for the sadness to almost completely overwhelm you, but only so that He can then fill you with inexpressible joy in His Word. Sometimes Jesus waits for that loneliness to drag on and on for so long that it seems like it's going to choke you out, but only so that He can give you that breath of fresh air in His love. Sometimes Jesus waits and He waits and He waits for that guilt to weigh down so heavily on your shoulders that you feel like you are going to be crushed, only so that He can take that weight off and help you onto your feet and instill in you a confidence that only comes from His forgiveness. Jesus waits, but He doesn't forget about you. Jesus waits, but He doesn't get distracted. Jesus waits, but He's not unsympathetic to what's happening in your life. He knows exactly what is happening in your life because He's gone through it. He knows exactly what you're going through because He's been there. He knows exactly what you need because He's done it. He waits. He waits. He waits. But He waits for you. Not for you to do something. Not for you to come to your senses. Not for you even to ask Him for something. He waits for your sake. So that when He does come, you will see Him as He is, your Lord and your Savior and your God. And this was just the first time of many that He waited and waited longer than people expected. He did that throughout His life. He did that even up to the point of His death. 3 years after this incident, Jesus would be hanging on a cross. And as He was bleeding out, posted to those planks of wood, He says, "I am thirsty." And a man runs and gets a sponge, and he dips it in wine vinegar, and he puts it on a stick, and he holds it up to Jesus' face. And so now you have the Son of God, who at one time changed 150 gallons of water into wine for everyone to have a drink, now being fed a few drops of wine vinegar because He needed something to drink. I think His mother Mary and those few disciples remembered this incident at that wedding in Cana when they saw that happen and Jesus was hanging on the cross. Do you think they're wondering to themselves, what is He waiting for? What is He doing? He doesn't need someone to feed Him. When is He going to come down and escape the grasp of His enemies like He always has before? He's suffered so much already. He's bled so much already. He's proved so much already. What is He waiting for? This time, Jesus was waiting to die. He wasn't going to speed things up. He was not going to try to get out of things as quickly as possible. He was not going to shortchange His quest for your salvation. He was going to wait. He was going to wait. And He was going to wait 6 long hours before He gave up His life on that cross. And although that is apparently a short amount of time for someone to die on a cross by crucifixion, that is a long time to suffer for the sins of the world. But Jesus was going to wait. And wait. And wait. Until it was finished. And then He was going to wait 3 more days before rising from the dead and claiming His victory. Jesus is worth waiting for. Even if we don't know what He is waiting for. That's why I like to go back to Psalm 27. There's a specific verse of Psalm 27 that helps me wait for the Lord because that's exactly what it says. Psalm 27 verse 14, and it sounds like this. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. It's difficult to do. It's a difficult thing to wait for the Lord when we don't know what He is waiting for. Because we hurt. And we're in pain. And we're stressed out. And we're anxious. And we're worried. And we don't know what to do. And we don't know what to think. And we don't know what to say. But the Lord has proved to you time and time again throughout the stories of the Bible and time again throughout your own life that He is waiting for just the right time, at just the right place, for just the right reason. And that reason is you. He is waiting to rescue you when there is no other option. He is waiting to revive you when you are on the brink of disaster. He is waiting to save you with His love and His compassion and His forgiveness, just like He always has. Sometimes you're just going to have to wait. But you are waiting for the one who always waits for you. Wait for the Lord. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord.